Hello there and welcome to the Spread, NESN's Football Picks Podcast. I'm NESN.com's Mike Cole, joined once again and as always by Ricky Doyle. Ricky, how are you?
I'm doing well. Mike, can you believe that Thanksgiving is next week?
Oh my God. Yes, I can, because everybody and their mother wants to tell you that, I can't believe Thanksgiving. It's just, all of a sudden it's Thanksgiving. Yeah, man. Like,
it happens, yeah.
What is it, third Thursday in November or whatever it is every year? But yeah, this is my wife and I were talking about this the other day. She was one of the people who couldn't believe that the dates come up when they come up. But it got me thinking. I was looking at it. Thanksgiving, actually, this is the second earliest it can be. But next year, because there's a leap year, it screws it up, and then we go back to a late Thanksgiving. So
maybe next year we'll be sitting here like, I feel like Thanksgiving's never going to get here.
Do you have Jesus Christ. I guess we're going to talk. Do you have a preference on, early or late Thanksgiving? Is it something you ever thought about?
You mean on the calendar or
on the
day itself? No, I don't have a preference.
I guess earlier.
I like it right that smack dab in the middle.
I like Christmas, so I guess this will get us to Christmas season earlier. Although I was walking around Target earlier and rocking around the Christmas trees blaring.
Yeah, you know what? Now that I think of it,
not to get on a cliche, it's.
Now that I think of it, I think I like a later Thanksgiving because fall is way too short as it is. I like fall. I mean, I'm more of a summer guy, yeah. But I do enjoy fall, and I feel like if you get the early Thanksgiving, that to your point, now all of a sudden we're going to be in Christmas mode, and fall's getting shorter and shorter.
Yeah, that's fair.
You got to thread the needle with fall.
No,
only about a month you get. I realized that I was somewhere recently, and they had was looking for a nice like a Sam Adams Oktoberfest, and they were already onto the winter lagers.
It was November.
So. Yeah, no, this was like a few weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
And they were already into the winter.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean,
I'm like, I think you might be jumping the gun here.
You got to load up in August.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Anywho.
The calendar. Funny. We've had a lot of calendar talk the last 2 weeks. Yeah, so we'll get into
We're really drilling down, though, because we were talking about years last week, too. So now we're into the months, so we're going to start hammering out our favorite days of the week probably next week.
We were just talking about before we came on air, and we'll get to this next week. I think we'll do some real Thanksgiving talk next week. Everything in my life.
Sure, everybody's looking forward to that.
A lot of things in my life. The tangible things. I take a lot of joy in nostalgia based things. And I think this is becoming clearer and clearer every week, whereas last week we were talking about how great 1999 was, and now we just organically were discussing how much better Thanksgiving in the NFL used to be back in the 90s. So that says something about, I think that must be a millennial thing too.
It could be the case.
We're soft. I don't know.
Speaking of nostalgia, you got a very Richard Karn look going right now.
Well, this is literally the shirt that I wore for the.
Is it?
Yeah.
I was going to say, I'm having flashbacks. Who, by the way, did not respond to our invitation to come on. So maybe we can circle back with that because I don't want that to just go away.
I can't. I heard somebody, a podcast was discussing Family Feud hosts. He just kind of gets lost in the shuffle in the best possible way. He was not creepy. He was not Louis Anderson.
He was strong. He was a strong host.
Yeah. Steve Harvey is almost too big. The show just isn't the same as it used to be now.
Yeah.
He was just perfectly fine.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to turn this into a Richard Karn podcast, but I did
I kind of do.
Come across that's true. A commercial that he was on the other day. And to our point from a few weeks ago, just looks great. He just
he seems like a legitimately happy man. And he's ducking us. I don't appreciate that.
He had a great tweet I saw when I was...
speaking of Thanksgiving, he looks like a guy who would show up at Thanksgiving.
He had a great tweet about cryptocurrency. What I noticed when I was trying to get his attention, point out our segment to him.
Over here.
He basically said that he just decided it was not for him.
Fair. Good take.
So it's a man with good foresight.
Maybe we circle back as the NFL playoffs get closer, because in my research, my Richard Karn research, found he is I don't know if he's an alum or just a big fan of the University of Washington.
Yeah.
Which is having a banner season. They look primed for a playoff push, so maybe he's a little wrapped up in Husky football
that would be understandable, yeah, sure.
But hey, like I said, he wants to come on and talk. He wants to come on and talk Husky football.
I just want to get his picks, man.
Yeah,
that's all.
Oregon State and then Washington State to close out the season, and then it's go time.
Yeah. Anyways,
great win for them a couple weeks ago. Hey, yeah. So we're gonna get into the picks. Michael Penix could be the Heisman winner. He could be the quarterback of the Patriots someday to really bring it all together. Got any takes from last week? We're into week 11 here. 11.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my initial takeaway is that, forget the NFC, the AFC is kind of a mess too.
Yeah. I think, this year more so than most, it feels like every time you come up to an opinion or a take, it just gets completely dumped on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so like this week you had the Ravens, Bills, Bengals, Jaguars, Chargers all losing.
What was the score of that Ravens game early too? That was even like within the course of that game. It's like,
that was such a Baltimore loss though, right? Like that's the thing over the past few years. It's like they kind of find ways to lose. That's like I think you could have you could still make the case that they might be the best team in the NFL, certainly among the top 3 to 5, whatever. But there are those games where they seem like they have it in the bag, and then the next thing you know, it's they're fighting for their lives.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's a tricky identity to deal with come playoff time. So it's like, I guess so. For me, it's like I look across the AFC, and on the whole, the AFC is still way better than the NFC. But there's just not nobody's really separating themselves. And I guess this is just kind of leads into what I was saying last week and over the past couple of weeks, that it's like, I feel like we're going to get to the end of the year and it's like, are we just overthinking this? And you look at the Chiefs, and I would probably trust them more than anybody just to be more buttoned up. They have the quarterback, they have the coach, and it's like, I just feel like we might get to a point where we really overthought that for a bulk of the season, and yet here we are again.
I guess there's a potential for absolutely bananas postseason then.
Yeah,
would it surprise you if the Ravens beat the Chiefs?
No, not at all.
Would it surprise you if the Dolphins beat them?
No.
The Bills?
No, the Bills got to get in there first.
Jaguars?
So
Texans?
Texans, yeah.
So that's the thing. It's like we're building this baseline of don't be surprised by anything when the playoffs roll around, because it's clear. Because you can sit here and say Kansas City is head and shoulders, or they, when the dust settles, however you want to say it. I still, even at 7-2, I'm like, I don't know how good they are. They could lose this week to Philly, and it's all back.
Yeah, our when we picked our Super Bowl picks out of a pumpkin a couple weeks back.
Damn it, that continues to.
Now you're looking at it. I ended up with Buffalo. You ended up with Cincinnati, both coming off losses, both outside the playoff picture right now. Buffalo is actually plus money to make the playoffs. It is a tough path for both of these teams. I think Cincinnati has the toughest remaining schedule. Starting this week at Baltimore on Thursday night.
Yeah.
Play Pittsburgh, Jacksonville. There's some winnable games, obviously, in there with Indy, Minnesota, scrappy. 2 games against Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Cleveland. Buffalo's got the Jets at Philly, and then their bye at Kansas City, Dallas. These teams are gonna have to scratch and claw to get in. I mean, if you're Cincinnati, can you go 5-3 in your stretch? I don't know. I don't know. But then these 2 teams, they get in there, to your point,
chair.
Yeah. So it's, I don't know. It's just kind of a mess right now, which I think is maybe something we didn't necessarily see coming.
That's fair. Yeah, it's just mostly too by failure to meet expectations. It's not like they've.
Nobody's as good as they could be.
Yeah, it's losing to Denver at home on a Monday night is not going to Kansas City and losing by 3 in a shootout. You know what I mean? That seems fairly avoidable.
Yeah, I think that's
every team, every contender except for, I guess, the Chiefs has that kind of loss already on their.
It's a lot of teams that the teams that you expected to be in that conversation, by and large, are in the conversation.
Yeah.
But it just hasn't looked right.
Yep.
It hasn't looked right. And to your point, like, yeah, losing a game on Monday night to Denver, like, that's something that you would not expect a team with Super Bowl aspirations to have that sort of trip up. And yet, each week there are these teams that have these trip ups. So, yeah, it makes it complicates matters, certainly for us.
Indeed.
To try to figure out, make heads or tails every week.
And so let's flip a coin. We're gonna
more or less, yeah.
Get into our picks. We both did poorly last week on our full against the spread picks at NESNbets.com. I did poorly on the show, I think. If there's anything else I wanted to get into as while we're still here. Nope, I mislabeled stuff, so it's actually week 11. So that's a good job by me. Yeah. All right. Do you want to get into your picks?
Yeah, let's make some picks here.
I had Cincinnati, the under, and Green Bay, Pittsburgh, and then Tennessee. So I went 3. So I'm bouncing back, but you start off with your 3-unit pick for us.
3-unit pick. I'm gonna take the Dolphins, coming off a bye, laying 12 points to the Raiders, who now had back-to-back. Yeah, I think this opened at 9 or 10.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is trending in the wrong direction for somebody backing the Finns.
Sit right in front.
But I honestly don't know what would be enough to scare me off. This has been a type of situation where Miami's thrived all year. There's been plenty of weeks where I've sat here and have doubted the Dolphins, and will continue to do so probably come playoff time. But I mean, the 3 losses: Buffalo, Philly, Kansas City. The 6 wins. Average margin of victory, 18.2 points. It just beat up on bad teams. Like, some teams are just like that, you know what I mean? And like, I think that the Raiders, despite this little, this little jolt of energy they seem to have gotten from firing Josh McDaniels, we're talking about back-to-back home wins over the Giants and Jets, 32nd and 30th respectively in offensive DVOA. Teams quarterbacked by Tommy DeVito and Zach Wilson. Now you got Miami. You're traveling to Miami, team that's second in offensive DVOA, first in yards per play. Like, this could be a tough day of the offers for Vegas' defense. Only 3 teams have allowed more yards after the catch than the Raiders. Miami ranks 3rd in that category. Also, just like the spot, like, you got Miami, like I said, coming off the bye, at home, very good home team. Vegas just played on Sunday night, now traveling across the country. So I think these two teams are just in different weight classes, and you haven't really seen the Raiders tested since McDaniels' departure, and this is kind of going to be the first week that this, you get a reminder of the talent discrepancy between these two teams.
This is probably going to be one I look for late in the week to buy some Raiders. So, like, it just feels like once everybody realizes what's, like, especially with the schedule thing, it's going to be, going from Sunday night.
That's why it might keep moving.
The 1 o'clock. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I fully intended. I fully expected to. Playing the 1 o'clock game after a Sunday night game against a team that's rested. Probably going to be hot. They're going to be wearing the black. Like, I think people are going to be lining up to be like, Dolphins 35-7. That being said, I also am the idiot who picked the Giants to cover a 16-point spread last week. So I obviously don't have a very good read on those sorts of things. So, yeah.
There's a few big spreads this week.
Yeah. Generally speaking, I think this schedule is not bad compared to last week. And then last week ended up being one of the more entertaining Sundays of the entire season.
Did we say that last week too? We were like, I think I mentioned it, that like, as bad as the schedule looked, like there's some of those weeks end up being the best ones because it's like you just stumble into like that Cardinals Falcons game, for example. It's like,
I mean,
that just looks like trash on the schedule, and then you find yourself like,
even like for as bad as like Colts Patriots,
doing dishes,
you
and
knew it was gonna be like like, oh, this game over like, something stupid's gonna happen.
This game's sneaky entertaining. Yeah, and then it's like you wait for whoever's gonna screw something up that makes it far more competitive than it should be, which is basically the Monday night game in a nutshell.
That too, yeah.
It's like, which team wanted to give that away more?
Right, which is just a complete abomination. But we'll get to one of those teams a little bit.
What do you got for 3-unit?
I'm taking Cleveland, laying 4 at home against the Steelers. There are 4 teams in the entire NFL that have a higher winning percentage than the Steelers. That's insane. They're 6-3, despite having a minus 26 point differential, and they've been outgained in every game this season. They haven't gotten to 400 yards of total offense in a single game this season. I think Kenny Pickett has 6 touchdown passes this season. I watched that entire game on Sunday. They played the Packers. I was not overly impressed by them. And I get it. Like, that's their shtick, right? Like, the coaching's good. They don't make any mistakes. Their turnover differential is the first in the NFL. But at some point, you got to do something, I think. And, like, at some point, water's going to find its level, I think. I don't see this as a playoff team. I don't see this as a sort of team that can go toe-to-toe with Cleveland or Baltimore or even Cincinnati. And maybe I'll be proven wrong in the long run. But I'm looking for an opportunity to fade Pittsburgh before it actually turns into what they feel like they should be. Maybe it's this week. You go back and look at these 2 teams played it. I think it was week 2. And Cleveland won the first down battle 20-9. Time of possession 35-25. They outgained Pittsburgh by 150 yards. They lost that game. And what it was is, I think it was TJ Watt had a fumble return. It was a Monday night game. That's kind of fluky. That was the final score of the entire game. They were winning. Cleveland was winning like 19-16 when that happened. So, like, I don't know. It feels like they kind of handled that game for the most part. Problem was they turned the ball over a ton in that game. And they had 4 turnovers to Pittsburgh's 2. But 3 of those turnovers were on fumble. I think you just don't fumble the football 3 times.
That would help.
You have a good chance here. Last week, we briefly mentioned the signs of life for Cleveland, especially for Deshaun Watson, who was horrendous. I think he was 6 for 20 in the first half, comically bad. Probably had his best quarter as a Brown in the fourth quarter, going 14-14 for 134 yards and a touchdown to win that game. They have an elite defense that maybe doesn't always play like an elite defense. Their issue has been giving up big plays. I don't see any sort of real big play potential here for the Steelers, except for maybe on the ground. And I just don't think that plays as well against Cleveland. We've seen that a couple times this year. You get a look at last week. Pittsburgh moved the ball well on the ground, 205 yards against the Packers. That's against the Green Bay defense that doesn't want to play. They're just playing nickel on every play. I just think it's going to be a much tougher road to hoe here. Also, Pittsburgh's got injuries. Quan Alexander is done for the season. Cole Holcomb, I think, is done for the season. Deontay Johnson on the offense is banged up. So maybe I'll be proven wrong. Maybe this is just destined to be a 20-17 game because that's just the way these 2 teams and these divisional teams play. But I think, I would not be shocked to look up at the end of the day and see 20-6 or something like that. I know I was trying to call my shot, but I'm just looking for ways to get there. I think Cleveland can blow them out without scoring 35 points in this game.
Yeah, that was last week was a frustrating over for that Steelers-Packers game.
Oh my God!
I think it might have been one of yours on the show.
Yeah,
it played out.
Yep.
How you kind of envisioned it playing out. The total was just too low.
I knew it was parked because both teams scored in their opening drives, and I was like, "Oh, here we go." And you're just when the number is that low, it's 37.5. That is a big chunk of that number before you even get to halfway through the first quarter.
But if you would have saved, going into that game, sort of how it played out,
of course.
You would have, aside from the opening drive scores, you'd be like, all right, I feel pretty good about the chances of this under cashing.
Yeah.
And so you came away from it.
Would have been nice for the Packers to win that game after I had lost that pick as well. But so it was a double whammy. But that is what it is.
The stat about Pittsburgh being outgained in every game so far, yet having the record that they have is it's pretty wild.
It's only happened 3 times, or in the other 2 teams were just very, very, as you would expect. They were not even close to above 500, let alone 6-3. So I give them all the credit in the world. It's an impressive trick that they're pulling. I just, at some point, it feels like that's unsustainable. Maybe it is. I don't know. But I think this is the week it starts to come back.
They're going to be a tough one if they get in there to try to project out a wild card round game. Not knowing who their opponent's going to be, but I imagine that the numbers, they're going to be getting, a decent amount of points.
8.5.
Yeah, but it's and even if it's a total mismatch, you're like, this because they do kind of have that where they find a way to keep it close. So
they're 6-1 to win the division. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's kind of telling.
Yeah.
What's your 2-unit play?
All right, 2-unit. I'm going to go with a total here. I'm going to take the under in Dallas, Carolina, under 42. Obviously, the Cowboys just blowing past that number on their own this past week. There's something about the schedule spot here that kind of irks me. Feels a little trappy. I don't know. Like I said, just coming off the big win, 32-point win over the Giants. Hosting Washington next week on Thanksgiving. First of 3 straight home games. The other 2 being primetime games. The following Thursday versus Seattle. Sunday night in Week 14 against the Eagles. Beyond that, you've got traveling to Buffalo, Miami. Also face the Lions. So if there's ever going to be a spot where maybe they take their foot off the gas a little bit, like this could be it. That being said, I'm too much of a coward to take Carolina.
I was gonna say,
because Carolina's offense has just been putrid. It sounds like there's changes are coming there, which I don't necessarily know what those are going to be.
Bill O'Brien.
But like this to me, like I could see a scenario where Dallas shows up, sort of sleepwalks to a win, which is reflected in the total. It's also kind of interesting too. Like Dallas has been an over team all season, 6-3 to the over. Carolina, meanwhile, under team all year, 3-6 to the over. So it's a little bit of a contrast here. But like I said, I'm basically working under the assumption that you might see a little bit of a let up from the Cowboys, and that'll be reflected more in their offense than anything. And like I said, Carolina's offense is such that I don't know. Like Dallas might cover that. I think it's at 10.5 now. But they do so because it's like a 30-3 game or something like that. Kind of like what you were saying about like that Cleveland-Pittsburgh game. Like Cleveland might blow them out, but not in the sense that it's going to be, a shootout or get to the over or anything like that. So, yeah, this is a fairly low total, but
that's super
I lean under.
For that, yeah. Speaking of low totals, taking the under. I like this pick a lot more 4 hours ago. Taking the under in the Giants, I'm taking the under in the Jets-Bills game Sunday afternoon in Buffalo. Number is 40.5. Buffalo offense is completely broken to the point where they fired Ken Dorsey this morning. We're recording this on Tuesday afternoon. They fired him, brought in Joe Brady of LSU fame. Like, I guess there's a chance that he comes in and is just like, we're doing things completely different now. Or like, right? Like that happens everywhere. Like in any job. It's like you're sitting here watching. You don't have as much power. And you're like, if that son of a bitch ever leaves, we're doing this, and this differently. So I think there's going to be changes. Will we see those changes right away against one of the better defenses in the NFL? I'm skeptical. They're still moving the ball. They just have been extremely prone to turnovers. At least they had been moving the ball. Monday night, it looked, this is ugly. And even Sean McDermott in his post-game press conference was finally starting to slinging some arrows. They're 4th in touchdown or first down percentage per drive, but the turnover rate is the second highest of the top 18 teams. The Jets, by the way, by the same metric, dead last in touchdown/first down percentage. So the Jets offense is obviously bad. Defensively, though, the Jets are 3rd in that same metric. Buffalo's 12th. So you've got 2 really good defenses. I saw this just a quick Twitter search so I'm taking Sneaky Joe Sports' word here, but he says the Buffalo offense in neutral script, weeks 5 through 10 ranks 19th in EPA per play. So they just, when everything is just, got to have it, they have struggled big time. I think the bigger issue here is the Jets offense, obviously. Robert Saleh continues to say we are not changing our quarterback, despite the fact since replacing Aaron Rodgers on the first series in week 1, Wilson has just 8 touchdown drive. That's insane. He has 5 touchdown passes, just 1 in the last 5 games. Peter King had this little nugget, which I thought was pretty telling. The Jets have had 55 possessions over the last 17 quarters. They have scored 2 touchdowns. Both of those touchdowns were one-play drives. So it was like, you could call that basically kind of, fluky or whatever. Like, it's just, one of them was like a screen pass that went to the house. Like, that's not.
Yeah, they're not sustaining.
No, they're not. He ranks dead last in EPA among quarterbacks. It's just, I don't know what else you do. Like, Trevor Siemian, it's just, where do you go?
And very much the Patriots conundrum right now too, right? Like, it's like, sure, you make a change for the sake of change, maybe, but the expectation isn't that it's all of a sudden going to be miraculously cured because and they don't really have another option.
I think the thing people forget here or in New York or wherever when you're talking about these sorts of things is like the backups are practicing. Like, it's not just this isn't just some great unknown where like you have to keep them in a box until you want to use them in a game. Like, these guys are seeing these players in practice, and I would have to imagine, considering what you're seeing on Sundays from
can't be good.
Mac Jones or Zach Wilson, the performance from Bailey Zappi, Trevor Siemian, whoever is just cannot be very good at all. Also, it looks like we're getting to that time of year. Weather could be an issue. Rain, snow showers, high of 40, a low of 32 with winds up around 15 miles per hour.
I love that.
So
I feel like we've really stepped back from our weather talk. It's over the years we've discussed the weather ad nauseum, but this year I feel like we've scaled back. I'm ready to ramp that up in December. I don't know about you. I'm ready to get my meteorology hat on and get back at it.
This is
so you keep talking.
This is a 4:25 game too, which I don't know what it is. I like the idea of Ralph Wilson at 4:25 on a Sunday. I'm making chili this Sunday. Making chili and watching this game.
But the weekend before Thanksgiving, you're going to do a little chili. All right.
So I was thinking about this. I was having this conversation with my wife. Quick detour. Some bird talk. Would you be against, if you showed up to, where are you going for Thanksgiving?
Probably my dad's house.
Is he a cook? Somebody in the house cook?
No. Okay, well, sure. my aunt usually.
She cook a whole bird?
She's a great cook, so she'll do that.
What if you showed up?
My dad will burn the kitchen down.
What if you showed up and they said, "Hey, all we have is we're having turkey breast. We don't have the full bird. We're just making it's a ton. Like there's gonna be enough to eat, but we're just having turkey." Would that disappoint you?
I mean, I pretty much roll with anything, but
it's kind of where I'm at. So we've hosted Thanksgiving the last 2 years.
I'm just like, that's what you want to do, sure.
Various issues. It's hard to cook a turkey. I don't know if people realize this. And you would think it'd be easy. Just take it out of it never thaws in time. Put it in for this amount of time. Spatchcocking, you're basting, you're stuffing. And I'm just like, I kind of just want to do turkey breast. Like, it's the only good part of the turkey, in my opinion, anyway. Yeah. You can do so many things to it, right? You can brine it, dry or wet. You could even smoke part of it. I'm sure you can season it to your heart's desire. There's a lot of options here, even for and nobody likes turkey anyway. So that's the whole thing this is just a much easier way.
It's true, yeah.
My wife brings up a good point, though. What do you do with this stuff? So it's going to be a debate in the Cole household over the next couple. But I was just curious, like, is it as a, socially, if you show up and it's like, well, we're just having turkey breast and not the actual, we're not putting the big old bird on the table. And like,
I mean, it really depends on the guest count and things like that. If it's a small group that the expectations are relatively low.
2 pounds of turkey breast, like it's.
Yeah. But if you're getting like a decent amount of people over and the expectation is that you're gonna cook, I can see people being disappointed. But at the end of the day, who the hell cares anyway?
That's a good point. You want to come over to my house for Thanksgiving?
Yeah, maybe they won't want to come over next year. And so you're playing the long game, really.
Well, I think another thing
you're getting out of this.
I think another thing that goes into this is the Packers play the early game. So I'm like, I don't want to be dealing with this. It's what's gonna get me to the table.
Maybe that's the cheat code, right? If you don't want to, if you kind of begrudgingly hosting these holidays, it's just like have a total mishap,
half-ass it.
Take a dive, serve salami sandwiches.
I've had some issues in the last couple of years. So with turkey,
get people to the point where they're like, I don't know, man. Mike is like, things are getting hairy over at the Coles. Maybe we keep it local this year.
I am much better at Christmas when you just put some stuff on a ham, throw it in the oven, and it comes out and it's already cooked.
Yeah, Chris. Speaking of my my dad burning the kitchen down. So Christmas was pretty low key last year. He was like, I'm not gonna cook. I'm gonna get like those like big like 6-foot subs that you can get.
Holy Jesus.
He's like, I'm just gonna get a few 6-foot subs.
What a move.
And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, that is first of all, sick move. Second of all,
he's not a huge market for those.
Goes in completely blind Christmas Eve though. Like he's not like there was no prep involved. It wasn't like, hey, like I don't know. I would imagine you gotta like give them a decent amount of notice, right? Like, hey, I'm ordering a few 6-foot subs.
Yeah,
like,
if you want it for Christmas.
Yeah, that's not something that on Christmas Eve at literally 3:30 in the afternoon call the place up and first ask are you open?
Yeah.
And then like second of all, why don't you throw a couple 6-foot subs on for me? So there's a will, there's a way, I guess, because he ended up landing. He secured a few 6-foot subs, but
Chinese food is always a backup.
That's true, yeah. And we also knew that like if we really botched it,
or you could eat
the people that were showing up weren't gonna care all that much.
Whatever.
Yeah. But I just thought it was a bold move. Where it's all right, you didn't really think this through that you're 3:30 in the afternoon. I'm like he's asking me for advice. I'm on like Uber Eats, Grubhub, like searching for places that are open. I'm like, I don't know, man. You got us into this mess. You're gonna have to dig us out.
So another thing, before we get back to the picks, I talked about this a couple weeks ago. But do you recall? I got a new dog.
Yeah.
Take him out, walk him. I got a wreath on the front door. Do you recall this?
I think you
birds in the wreath.
Mentioned in passing, yeah.
Open the door, a bird flies, hits me in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that happened a couple weeks ago. So we got back from
you had another issue.
Picking up our son from daycare. Okay. Yeah. So we're walking up. Like our 3-year-old, he would be 3 on New Year's Day, taking his sweet ass time getting up the front steps. And it's like, come on, man, let's go. And so we open the door. He's just dicking around. And it's just like the door is open.
He'll be
go in.
It sounds like he'll be ordering 6-foot subs on.
Go in the door.
Future Christmas.
Just go in the door and go up the stairs, and we'll turn on YouTube, and you can shut up for an hour. And he's just taking his time, and a bird comes flying out, and goes right by my head, and I'm like, oh, I thought the weird voice of God was talking. So flies by my head. I'm like, wow, that was close. And then so I'm like waiting for him, and another bird comes out, and instead of flying by my head, just takes a hard right into the house.
Oh, he boomeranged it. He gave it the old boomerang route.
And this is, I'm sharing that we're in the trust tree. No one watches this anyways. Whatever. I had a little bit of not a freak out, but all the credit goes to my wife. She's just like, what are you doing? Like, let's go in and get the bird. I was like, well, what do we do? What do we do?
What's the play there? How do you get it?
So we just walked upstairs and like
guided out.
The kid's losing his mind. Like, there's a bird, there's a bird. The dog's doing circles, chasing stuff around. I'm like, I don't know what to do. My wife's like, where's the trash bag? So the bird's just flying around. It lands on our friggin' living room couch. She's like, it's on the couch. Like, so do we have to wash the couch now? I don't know. We haven't washed the couch. Bird flu. If you want to come over for Thanksgiving.
Well, maybe is this what's going to be in the chili?
No, you're talking. So the bird gets up, flies into the back of the house, comes back out down the front hall, and it goes all the way down the hallway into my wife's office.
So he got the grand tour.
So yeah, but like it goes into the office, and the office is attached to our deck, our pool.
Yeah.
So he went in there. So we were able to shut him in there, and my wife was in there just like, basically. I guess the thing kept flying into the window.
Well, that's the thing too.
She finally was able. He hit the window, was down. She picked him up in the bag, opened the door, the thing flew away.
Well, that's the thing. When you trap him like that, you're hoping that like you're sending enough of a message that when you untrap him to figure out your next move, that he's going to be like, I'm out of here. I've seen enough.
Knock on wood, have not seen either of them in the last couple of days. And I keep forgetting about it. And it's like, after I open the door, I'm like, oh, I'm glad I didn't just take a bird to the face again.
And the thing with the birds is like, ultimately the thing's harmless, but it's just like, they're a pain in the ass. It's just like so very helter-skelter.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like like you said, everybody's flying around the seat of their pants.
Yeah, it was bad. So it was not my best moment. I just want to be upfront about that. I was like, do we hide the kid? What do we do? How do we trap it? And it's like,
get a butterfly net.
She's got the door. Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what to do here.
Pin him up against the wall.
We're looking for stuff. I'm like grabbing his shoebox, his trick or treat bag, which was laying out. And then so she's in there.
Nerf gun.
He comes out and he's like, everybody back up. He's like directing traffic. It's like me and the dog.
Give him the safety vest.
He's like, no. He's like, back up. I'm like, I live here. I'm your father. I am a gigantic coward right now, but I will not be pushed around by you. So
I'd be telling all the kids in school about that.
Yeah, that's the other thing
never
too.
believe what my dad did a few years ago.
Not only that, I mean, I'm sitting here. If you're watching this, you know nothing about me. It's like, this guy is a slob. He's got mice. He's got birds. Can't cook a meal. So yeah, that's that. That was an interesting little detour. That was like our intermission report.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to sponsor our intermission report, we could do this every week. Throw up an overlay on the thing and say, hey. So let's get back to the action. What's your? We're up to one unit, please.
We down to 1 unit? What?
Yeah.
Real quick though, before we get to the 1 unit, with Buffalo, this whole thing with Buffalo, Sean McDermott, seat getting warmer.
I'd be such a bad owner / executive. I would have fired him after the Patriots.
You know what I'm thinking too? Like,
you're a defensive coach and you let Mac Jones go down the field and just shove it up your ass.
So to take the question a step further, because I feel like we kind of floated it a few weeks ago when we were talking about Bill Belichick, like landing spots.
Yeah. Buffalo, as tweeted by me this morning. Buffalo Bills head coach Bill Belichick.
Did you tweet that?
I did. Yeah.
Huh? I was gonna say door open. I mean.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Like, it's a team that needs to get its head screwed on a little bit straighter, has the quarterback, has some skill position players. Like, the defense is going to be elite probably once they've had injury issues pretty much every year. Like, I don't know how much you can rely on Matt Milano, but like, there's talent there. He's going to get them in the right position to play. He knows the division already. Like, there's a lot of things that make sense there. So
interesting.
Yeah. But they have a GM, so I don't know if.
Well, I mean, was
it Brandon Beane or whatever?
Best case scenario, right? Like, if the Bill Belichick experience has taught us anything, it's that you want to have somebody else picking the groceries.
Yeah, I'm saying, like, I don't know if he would be interested in it.
Yeah. All right. I'll be quick with the 1 unit. This is what a game. I'm going to take the Giants getting 10 points in Washington against the Commanders. This is one of those games. It's talk about threading the needle. Spread is 10, total's 37. So it's like you're really expecting.
That, like, it makes sense to just take the points.
Just take the points, right?
And I don't know if that makes.
Admittedly, there is. It's just like you're just kind of holding your nose and rolling with it. But I mean, I just can't, in good faith, lay 10 points with the Commanders, even when they show a little something offensively. Like, look at their wins. 4 wins, 3 of the 4 wins by 4 points or fewer. The exception being an 8-point win over Atlanta. That game, Desmond Ridder, 3 second-half interceptions. Washington took advantage of some short fields. I do think the Giants, for as awful as they've been blown out on multiple occasions. Their offense is just, they're probably the worst team in the NFL, really.
100%, yeah.
But, like, I guess if there's one thing they can do decent enough, maybe put some pressure on Sam Howell. That was the case when they beat him back in Week 7. Washington, their offensive line's been brutal all year. Howell pressured on 179 dropbacks, most in the NFL. Sacked 47 times. Next highest is Zach Wilson at 33. So they've just been, that Washington offensive line, total turnstile for the duration of the season. So maybe the Giants can muck it up just enough. That's all I'm looking for you. Just enough. I'm going to win the game. Just get it to, like, the best case scenario for this would be exactly what that game was in Week 7. 14-7. Like, let's just turn this into as ugly a game as possible.
Preseason game.
And then there's the other, elephant in the room of, like, maybe Washington gets caught looking at Thanksgiving, because they do have Dallas on Thanksgiving, followed by Miami, and then their bye. So this would be a game where it'd be very easy to take the Giants for granted. So I don't know. It's kind of catching lightning in a bottle, I guess, for the Giants to do much of anything, especially on offense. But really, like I said, it goes back to just, I don't know. We're laying 10 with Washington. It feels ill-advised.
Sure. I like Sam Howell. If you give him an offensive line, he could be like 3rd or 4th best quarterback in the NFC. right now.
I'm with you. He's showing a little something. You know, that was actually it's like a do with the information whatever you want. But I was looking at like C.J. Stroud, in like now the talk of whether he is an actual MVP candidate, and so I was just looking at some of his numbers. Third in passing yards. Number 1, Sam Howell.
There you go.
Like, passing yards is a whatever stat, but like this is interesting.
Slinging Sam.
Like, wow. So. All right.
My 1 unit play, I'm taking Chicago, getting 10 points at Detroit. I thought I was going to be smart, being like, I've got this great angle to look at. You've mentioned it twice with other your picks already. The look ahead thing for Detroit, maybe being having.
This is another game I looked at.
Yeah, having the Packers on Thanksgiving. Lions still not totally sold, and they play a lot of close games too. They don't blow out a ton of teams. That last week was a perfect example of that in Los Angeles. Their red zone offense is horrible. That's not great. That's how you settle for a field goal once or twice instead of a touchdown. That's how you end up letting a team cover a 10-point spread. Detroit, on the other hand, looking a little bit better defensively. Over the last 3 weeks, they've been a top 10 defense by EPA. They've had by far the best run defense over that span by EPA. You go back all the way to week 5 since they start after their 0-4 start. They've actually had the 7th best defense by EPA per play. Since week 5, they rank first in rushing yards allowed per play and haven't allowed a single rushing touchdown, which is big when they're going up against the David Montgomery revenge game. In the same span, since week 5, Detroit has the 24th best defense. So, again, I don't totally trust their defense, especially on the outside. Cornerbacks Cam Sutton and Jerry Jacobs got torched last week. Sutton, 88 yards on 6 catches, 9 targets. Jacobs, 111 passer rating against. This is mostly a play that Justin Fields is going to be back, because I do think the volatility increases with him, where like you don't necessarily know what you're going to get. It can be really, really ugly, and he is horrible when it comes to avoiding sacks. But I also think it gives them some big play potential. DJ Moore has been a lot better with Justin Fields at quarterback. You go back, I think you look at like that Washington game. I think that was a Thursday night game. That's kind of for the offense, what they could be. I like to think the Lions are probably a little bit better than Washington's defense, but I think there's going to be some opportunities to get some big plays here for that Chicago offense, assuming Fields is good to go. And if that's the case, it just takes 1 or 2 of those in the game to get you to find 10 to 14 points that maybe you didn't have and find a way to get on the number. I don't think the Bears are going to win this game, obviously, but I think they'll find a way to keep it close, especially with Detroit knowing they're on a short week. Maybe they don't go balls to the wall for 60, although that doesn't seem like Dan Campbell's style. So, as I say, I'm kind of talking myself out. I think they find a way to muck it up. And again, I think there's enough big play potential there to get it within the number late.
Bears would be a juggernaut if they could play every Thursday night.
That's a good point too. Yeah,
they're a perfect Thursday night team, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Like whatever. Like let's just do it now.
I hate the.
Let's just do it now, so we don't have to do it on Sunday.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to get out of here? Or do you want to do cards?
Should we punt on the cards?
I think we should.
We'll treat your new pet bird as this week's show and tell.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I would have brought him in if I could. I should have told my wife, "Hey, hold on to that thing, real
slippery.
Let's get that thing out of cage." And we'll hold on.
Oh God, it's owning a bird.
No.
You want to talk about it? Just
I'm sure.
A tall order. Would you rather? Let me ask you this: Would you rather own a bird or a reptile?
Bird, I guess. Because at least I like the look of it a little bit better. Maybe it talks. It does some cool stuff.
I mean, look, birds are annoying as hell.
Like, what reptile are we talking?
I had
like an iguana.
My
that
old
just
landlord.
Sits there?
I think I mentioned this to you. I had to watch her bird one time.
Sick.
She was on vacation, and the thing drove me up a wall.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just
making
noise. But I feel like you probably get used to that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think I'm with you. Begrudgingly would go bird.
I don't understand reptiles.
Yeah, the bird. I feel like the annoyance is like just the little noises and stuff.
Smell bad. They smell bad.
Yeah. But I feel like I could get to a point where I tune them out a little bit. I can't tune out the fear of a reptile getting out of its cage or tank or whatever.
And you can you can get comfortable with the bird enough that you could let it out and it just flies around the house. Like that. I know bird people do that, I think, right?
I guess.
They both suck. It's all. Again, we talked about this in the office earlier. I'm really pretty much out on any pet that isn't a dog or a cat. And if that makes me an elitist, I don't.
All right, anyways. We got to go to Petco now.
Yep. All right. That's Ricky. I'm Mike. This has been The Spread. Thank you for joining us. See you again next week. Goodbye.